to Focal Point AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Got a piece here from Michelle Malkin talking about the fact that there have been seven, count them, illegal alien amnesties that have been passed into law since 1986. It wasn't just the Reagan amnesty in 1986. There was one in 1994. There was another one in 1997. There was a second one in 1997 for Nicaraguan illegals. There was one in 1998 for Haitian illegals. There was an extension of that in 2000, and then another one in 2000. So there have been 7 of these illegal alien amnesties, and the point that she makes is not a single one of these was associated with a decline in illegal immigration. So people are saying, hey, all we need to do is grant these illegals legal status, and that'll solve the problem of illegal immigration to slow it down. Does not happen. Now, it's also important to understand that the Hispanic vote was not decisive in Obama's victory. I've got a piece here I've been holding on to since right after the election. Exit polls from 2012 election show that Mitt Romney would have lost Wisconsin, Iowa, and New Hampshire even if he had received 100% of the Hispanic vote in those states. In other words, if Romney had gotten every single Hispanic vote that was out there in Wisconsin, Iowa, and New Hampshire, he still would have lost. And also, if you look at the numbers, even if Romney had received 80% of the Hispanic vote in Ohio, 70% of the Hispanic vote in Virginia, and 50% of the Hispanic vote in Colorado and Nevada, he still would have lost those states. Now, in California, Obama got 72% of the Hispanic vote, but he could have won with 25%. Pennsylvania, Obama got 80% of the Hispanic vote. He could have won with just 37%. So the point is, the Hispanic vote was not decisive. Everybody's saying, hey, it was the Hispanic vote, it was the Hispanic vote. That's why. Turns out it wasn't decisive at all. And Marco Rubio's undergone a real change on this subject. Back in 2010, this is what he said in his debate with Charlie Crist over immigration. Earned path to citizenship is basically code for amnesty. That's a direct quote from Marco Rubio, October 2010. Quote, an earned path to citizenship is basically code for amnesty. And that's exactly what I am saying, and that's what he said then, not what he's saying today. 2009, he said this, quote, nothing will make it harder to enforce the existing laws if you reward the people who broke them. So the policy that I'm suggesting is exactly the one that Marco Rubio advocated in 2009 and 2010 before the gurus of political correctness got hold of him. So Marco Rubio has undergone an evolution on this and not in a good direction. And he's asked by this interviewer, John McCormick, Weekly Standard, what should the fine be? And he says, I don't know. We're going to have to work all of that out. So we got no numbers, no hard and fast numbers to go with this. And Rubio is saying, look, what we need is a way to freeze the numbers that we have before the problem gets worse. And I don't even understand this. He says the way you do that is bringing people out right now and saying from this point forward, this will not be available to anybody else. I have no idea how you control that. Everybody comes forward now. They get this guarantee. You're going to get you got to have some kind of deadline to do that. You're going to get a rush of illegal immigration like you have never seen. So, again, Marco Rubio, not today where he used to be. Used to have what I would consider a very sound position on immigration. No longer the case. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Todd in Houston, Texas. Todd, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Well, I don't think a lot of those people are not going to be willing to pay any kind of fine, and either they will just not go into the system and stay out, or they will they'll decide, oh, well, that's too much. That's an onerous burden. We'll waive it. And the fact of the matter is, most of the, I've worked with an employer that hired a lot of illegals, and the majority of them, men, said, no, I would not stay here if I had a path to citizenship. My money's going back to my home country. And in most cases, it's going untaxed. And there are people who specialize in doing taxes for these illegals, and they make all sorts of deductions for them.
Well, I believe it's the second largest source of revenue, gross domestic product in Mexico, comes from money that's being earned in the United States and sent to Mexico. So that's their second largest source of revenue after oil revenue, is people that work here and send the money home. In other words, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, Todd, that they're not primarily interested in citizenship. They want jobs, income, and goodies. That's what brings them to the United States. And you're saying that they are a lot of them paid under the table from what you can see?
Well, not with my employer. My employer was too large for that, but many are, and they just don't report it, or else they get an I-10, and if they go individual taxpayer identification number. Yeah. And I don't know what the standard is for proving who you are, but.
Well, it seems like Todd, what that would do is it open up enormous possibilities for document fraud, people trying to prove that they've been here X number of time. I think Marco Rubio said, well, they ought to be here at least 2 years. Well, how are they going to prove that they've been here more than 2 years? I mean, what documentation are they going to have? What's going to be accepted? You're going to see widespread document fraud as they cough up whatever it is, electricity bills or power bills or phone bills that are fairly easy to fake in order to prove that they've been here more than 2 years. So that does not seem to be a meaningful restriction whatsoever.
No, and they can go and get different I-10s too.
Yeah. There's another, and thank you, Todd. I appreciate the call. There's another complication here. If you're looking at legalizing 7 to 12 million illegal aliens, I mean, the impact on Obamacare is going to be huge, because right now, technically, they are not only not required to buy insurance, they're not eligible for the subsidies. Now, how many of them are getting it? I think it's probably a lot of them are getting it that aren't eligible for it. But if they become legal, the impact could be up to $300 billion. This is people taking the Congressional Budget Office numbers and projecting that if 7 million illegal immigrants, 85% of whom have income that's low enough to qualify for subsidies, that's going to be a $300 billion impact on the federal budget. And remember, they just got done raising taxes by $620 billion. We're just going to chew up half of that right out of the gate on Obamacare for newly legalized aliens. Let's go to Kurt, Grants Pass, Oregon. Kurt, you're on Focal Point. What's on your mind? Kurt, are you with me? All right, let's go to Paul in, do we have Kurt?
Hi.
Hi, Kurt, what's on your mind?
Well, you said justice for all. What about justice for the unborn babies? But that's not the discussion. Amnesty and all this stuff. We had Republicans in Arizona, McCain and Kyle. We had a Republican president. They didn't want to do nothing about the borders. You can put a fence up, but they can crawl under, dig themselves through and things. So fence, but we need to bring some of our troops home and put them at the border and secure our borders. But, and thank you for Tim's program with Sandy Rios, talking about Korea and stuff, and another program that was on about our country, getting back to constitutional things, but with Karl Rove, the establishment, they are the ones in control, and right now the person that's in, the president, he is not for America, and a lot of people in our government are not for America. It's for a one world order. George Bush Sr. talked about a new world order. That's what the plan is. There's the establishment. Have people look up the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers, Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateralists, the Rothschilds, the money. And somebody, I think it was Rothschild, said, I don't care about the laws. I care who controls the money.
All right. Well, listen, Kurt, I appreciate the call. And I think the reality here is that if the country club Republicans are going to be beat back on this, it's just going to be like 2007. It's going to have to be ordinary Americans that just rise up and say, no, we want a border fence before we want anything else. You know, Marco Rubio, all he's saying is we've got to have these border security things in place, meaning in the legislation, meaning plans for improved border security. That's exactly what happened in 1986. None of those improvements ever took place. We've got to see the fence up. It's got to be up. It's got to be operational before we talk about what we're going to do with the 12 million illegals. Let's go to Paul, Dallas, Texas. Paul, you're on Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Yes. Thanks for, I've heard you make a couple of my points already. First, my thanks for your pointing out that this whole thing of amnesty, no one or next to no one is going to step forward to why to claim it, because the number one real purpose of it is to simply put an end to deportation. In other words, once you roll this out, as you've already pointed out, there's no real way that you can prove anybody hasn't been here for 2 years or whatever. So what you've really done is you've put a total freeze on deportation, and you've frozen that so that everybody who's here can stay here indefinitely, and they have no incentive to become citizens at all with the fines and everything else that was promised. I have a proposal, though. I would like to see two proposals that I think would call Marco Rubio's and other people's bluff, and that is, you know, we'll go for this amnesty plan of yours, or whatever you want to call it, with just two provisions. One is you make it an absolute mandatory that all employers in the United States, regardless of how many employees, must use E-Verify to verify U.S. citizenship.
Okay, Paul, I got about 10 seconds. What's the second one? Very quickly.
The second one is you got to verify U.S. citizenship for all federal programs.
There you go. I'm with you on that, Paul. Absolutely. E-Verify for employment, E-Verify for any taxpayer-funded benefit. So Paul and I on the same page on that one. Focal Point, AFR Talk. Back after the news. Stay with us.